Today we're talking about the fear of rejection, one of the most powerful forces on earth, in my opinion, in terms of managing human behavior. And I'm going to help, or hopefully help you guys make a paradigm shift. We're going to look at fear of rejection like you've never looked at it before. And indeed, some of you have never really looked at it before. You've been captivated by it, it's controlled you, but you've never turned around and looked at this thing that's pushing you and said, what is this thing? So if you're a people pleaser or a nice guy, my standard audience, you probably built your entire life around avoiding or preventing rejection or the conflicts that lead to rejection. Even if you weren't aware this is what you're doing. You might have chosen entire career paths and relationships based on simply avoiding rejection. And it would have been in all the little things you do every day. Maybe it's you don't ask for what you want directly. So nobody can actually really say no to you because you don't give them anything to say no to. Maybe you avoid and de-escalate conflict so people never get into the upset range of emotions where rejections occur, that resistant, disagreeable range of emotions. Maybe you over-explain and defensively justify yourself, trying to neutralize any objections that might come up before they even arise, so that people really don't have a chance to object to you and to say no and disagree. You might just say yes when you feel like saying no, because yes gets a good reaction. In fact, you might try to avoid rejecting others because that just brings rejection into the picture. It's kind of like you don't want to bring weapons into a fight because then somebody will get shot. So even rejecting others is something you avoid just so that there isn't rejection in your life. And of course, because you might get rejected for being a rejector. And if you hide any part of yourself, especially emotions, true emotions that you're having, if you suppress or minimize, disguise them, because they might get a negative reaction, well, that negative reaction is what we're talking about when we say rejection. So you probably look at your behavior and you say, I must be afraid of rejection because I act like I'm afraid of rejection. It's a pretty logical conclusion. I act like somebody who's scared of getting rejected. And this is what I want to challenge today. Because what if the real problem isn't that they reject you? What if the real problem is that you've already rejected yourself and now you're just scared of other people confirming what you've already concluded? Because this is the big breakthrough when you realize it's not other people rejecting you. It's other people confirming your own self-rejection. That's what we're afraid of. I've been coaching nice guys and people pleasers for 13 plus years. I've been one, at least in recovery, maybe cured, who knows. But for as long as I remember, I've been both single, relationships, married. All my clients range from single through to married and beyond. And what I've discovered about rejection in all of those situations, all those various social interactions, is you cannot be rejected by somebody else unless you've already rejected yourself. Today I'm going to explain what I mean by that and how this insight can help you remove not just the fear of rejection, but rejection itself. To see it for what it is, an illusion that doesn't exist, a harmless fiction that you can ignore your entire life, something that's never actually hurt you. That's my claim for today. We'll see how I get along with that claim. I want to start by painting a bit of a picture for you. Mind experiment, thought experiment. Let's say you're at a party and everyone's eating pizza, right? You bought the pizza. You didn't bake it, you just bought it. And there's one slice left. And so you put it on a plate and you go around the party offering this slice to everybody. Do you want the last bit? You're hungry? Still hungry? Anybody want this? And everybody says no, right? So you're offering something of value from yourself, and everybody says no. No thanks, I'm full. Oh, I didn't really like that pizza. I'm good. Notice there's no sense of rejection, right? There will be some random people who would actually feel rejected, but we'll get to that. But I'm trying to choose an example where you're clearly getting a hard no from people. They don't want what you're offering, and yet you don't take it personally at all. You don't care. If anything, you're like, hey, more pizza for me, right? In fact, your intent is just to check if you can get away with eating this last piece. You're kind of hoping they say no. You're so far away from feeling rejected. You don't feel like you've lost any connection with people. You don't feel like you've lost anything. And yet, by definition, they are rejecting you. They are saying no to what you offer. They don't want it. So why doesn't that hurt? It might seem like a silly example, but it's a big deal here. Why is it that you could get 100 no's in a row offering value to somebody, and they all say no, and you're completely fine? And yet in different circumstance, you get one no for one person on a slightly different topic, devastating. So scary you don't even initiate in order to get that no in the first place. You prevent it from even occurring. What is the difference? Because in that difference is everything we're going to be talking about today. I see this in real life every day, pretty much in my coaching work. I'll give you a couple of examples, one from somebody who's single and one from somebody who's married. So if you think rejection is only for people who are single, think again. Married people are probably even more afraid of rejection because for them, rejection is even higher stakes. To be rejected by your partner, they're even more scared of that than being rejected by a stranger. I'll change the names of these people because they're real people, and I'll change the details a little bit so even if they are watching, they couldn't be sure I'm talking about them. There's one guy, we'll call him John, keeps getting friend-zoned. Yeah, lots of girls like him. He easily gets along with girls, including girls he's attracted to. They even say he's the best guy ever. They wish they could find a boyfriend like him. Why can't other guys be more like him? They say this stuff to him. But they never choose him as a romantic partner. Right? They always choose somebody else. Often they'll complain about it, somebody else to him. They say, I wish he was more like you. And still they won't choose him. They pick the jerk instead, so to speak. So somehow he's their favorite guy, and yet he's destroyed any attraction they have for him. Why? What's going on there? Why are they rejecting him? Are they rejecting him? What's really happening? Another example I'll give you. Call this guy Harry. Because I just use John and Harry because I have no clients with those names, even though they're really common names. So Harry is terrified of hurting his wife's feelings. Okay. He doesn't ask for anything that he wants unless she shows some interest in it first. It looks safe to go for. He submits to her preferences on how they raise the kids, compromising things he clearly thinks are right and wrong in order to favor her position. He pretends that he fully agrees with her political views, and yet now she seems to resent him. Their marriage is on the rocks. She doesn't appreciate all these sacrifices he's made at all. And so he's destroyed his marriage by making her happy. So both of these guys, in their attempt to avoid rejection, have created a situation that is identical to being rejected. John is alone, as if everybody had said no to him. And Harry is losing his wife, as if she's rejected him. And they did everything in their power to prevent a rejection from happening. So John and Harry have something in common. What is it? They refuse to take the risk of getting a no, particularly an emotional no, an upset no. It might not even be the word no, but they didn't want to offend them or make them uncomfortable, make them angry, which are all just variations of what they consider to be a rejection. When somebody has a certain emotional reaction to you, they'd say that particular emotion is the same as a rejection. So they did everything in their power to prevent it happening, and it happened anyway. So this mystery is going to be solved hopefully today. I'm going to help you guys figure out why this backfires so hard, why avoiding rejection is the only thing that makes it true, and why it seems so unfair, these situations where these tragic strategic errors take place, where men avoiding rejection, doing everything in their power to prevent it from happening, make it happen. And we're going to look at why they attempt to avoid it, why they're so convinced that it's a good idea to prevent the so-called rejection from happening, despite the disastrous outcomes. And the fact that both John and Harry have seen this happen repeatedly before, and they're still making the same mistake. Even with awareness, they know avoiding rejection leads to terrible outcomes, and they still do it. They're still so scared of it, they would rather walk off the bridge into the swamp again. We're going to look at the dark place of self-rejection that is creating all of this backfiring fucking disaster. Okay, we're going to have a look at that today. So, if you've ever rewritten a text over and over again because you're worried about how it's going to be received, avoided asking someone out or asking for anything because you already knew the answer, even though you didn't have any evidence, you stayed quiet in meetings because you had something important to say, but you just felt like it was too risky to say it. If you let your partner disrespect you because you didn't want conflict or a hassle, it didn't seem like it was worth it. Or if you felt physically anxious before asking for something completely reasonable, like going up to a stranger and asking for directions. All of this is what we interpret as fear of rejection. But what it really is the fear that the horrible shit you believe about yourself deep down will turn out to be true. Okay. So, we're going to explore that today, as fun as that sounds. And everything we're talking about today is covered in my Overcoming Fear of Rejection Permanently course. I'll chuck a link to that in the comments or in the description below. And that one actually includes like a worksheet and a 100-day challenge to help you face and overcome your fear of rejection. So if this workshop's not enough for you, you can go deeper on that. But hopefully I'll give you plenty today as well. Cool. So I want you guys to open your mind to this idea, like, what if I'd never really thought about rejection properly before? What if this is the first time I've ever turned around and looked at the monster that's been pushing me along my whole life, telling me what to do, telling me what not to do? What is this monster? Who is it? What is it made out of? What is the definition of rejection? Let's start with what most people think it is. Generally, if and I've asked this question thousands of times, what is rejection? In some way, shape, or form, it's a no from the outside. Okay. So it's either the words no or no thank you, whatever, like this, I don't want whatever it is you're asking for, I don't want to give it to you, I don't want what you're offering, that kind of thing. Or this could be, and can coincide with, unpleasant emotional reactions. So quite often a rejection is described as them feeling something in a certain range of emotions in reaction to you, which may or may not accompany the word no. Disgust, offense, anger, being upset, being bothered by you, being confused by you even. Basically anything that isn't happiness, there will be somebody out there who considers that emotional reaction to be a rejection. So if you were to say to someone, hi, how's it going? And they're like, ooh, you'd say that's the same as them saying no to me. That's a rejection on me. Or you might ask, plenty of married men is like, oh, I went to ask my wife if she liked the dinner I cooked her, and she said, oh, I can't believe you didn't listen to me, and blah, blah, blah. And he took that as a rejection, like that anger. So most people, the definition of rejection starts with this no, or this emotional reaction that represents no from the outside. And then there's an internal response. So they say no, and this is where it's different to the pizza example I gave before. There's the other reaction that happens in you. The emotions, hurt, embarrassed, scared, empty, needy, panicky. There's a range of emotions that you'll go through. We're particularly scared of embarrassment and humiliation, especially single guys talking about rejection. This is often the words they use, this idea that you'll be seen to have had that no, and that people will judge you in some way and your reputation will be tarnished, this kind of narrative that explains being embarrassed or humiliated. And then there's loneliness, kind of disconnection, fear that the relationship's over. That's what happens often in marriage. Kind of neediness, this panicky urge to try and fix things quickly, like something's broken and there's a limited time opportunity to do something about it, this push, this panic. And then that will be accompanied quite quickly by thoughts and various beliefs and narratives that come up that explain the situation, why they reacted that way, why you feel this way about it, and so on. And this is usually going to be some kind of shame and blame story. Something wrong with me, they don't appreciate me, I'm not good enough, Will I ever get what I want? Maybe never. What's the point? I didn't achieve my goal. I must be doing something wrong. You start to like come up with some sort of reason that explains them, explains you, explains all of this that makes sense. Sometimes it's very specific. Oh, it's because I'm bald, you know. And other times it's a more vague sense of wrongness, shame that doesn't really land on anything that you can put your finger on. Sometimes it's something specific, but it changes every time. Maybe this time it's something to do with the way I look, and it's the way I talk, and it's my intelligence. Maybe I'm too smart. Maybe I'm not smart enough. And it just adjusts to whomever said no. It goes, this is why it happened this time, which creates this huge like smorgasbord of reasons why people don't like you and reject you. And all of this is what does not happen when you're just offering people the last piece of pizza at the party. Right? None of this internal shit happens. They just say no, and you just move on. Fine. It's completely, nothing changes in you at all. And I want to start by just sort of pinning that in your mind. Imagine if that's how you always felt. Unchanged, unaffected, no matter why they said no or what the no was to. Whether it's a piece of pizza or a proposal for marriage, their no never made a difference. Can you imagine that? This might sound like hyperbole, but this is possible. I used to be absolutely terrified by rejection, and when I did get them, on the rare occasions that I took a risk that could allow a rejection to happen, or I just upset somebody, I'd be devastated, fucking sleepless, right? Weeks, maybe, I might be ruminating on it. One particular rejection stopped me asking out girls for 10 years. I was so humiliated. And now, and I really am not exaggerating, trying to be as truthful as possible, I don't feel a thing now, no matter what, who, why. Someone gets upset. I might be bothered that they're upset because their emotion is a hassle for me, but taking it personally, almost never. Certainly a massive improvement on whatever I used to do. So whereas I used to take everything personally and be absolutely blown around like a piece of dust with everyone's reactions, now it's like maybe 1% of the time I might move a little bit and then quickly readjust. And there's nothing special about me. I was kind of the worst case example. And now I'm like at the other end of the spectrum. And this is a path anyone can walk. And this is what I'm trying to get across today, is that that journey was mostly about realizing the difference between someone saying no to a piece of pizza and no to you asking them out on a date, and how there isn't actually a difference. So most people think of rejection as somebody else saying no or getting upset and you feeling really bad about it, followed by a story about how you're a fucking loser piece of shit because you caused them to say this no, right? That they are basically validating the idea that there's something wrong with you. But where did that idea come from in the first place? What are they validating? And if it only happens after you have the internal reaction, is there such a thing as an external rejection? If rejection comes with all that emotion and stuff, if we say, look, I offer you a piece of pizza, you say no, and I don't call that a rejection, I have some other term for it that's got nothing to do with me personally, then when we use the word rejection, what we really must be talking about, the only thing we're talking about, is our personal interpretation, our reaction, not theirs. Or should we say our response to their reaction? But their reaction is not objectively a rejection. It depends how we take it. If I go to a crowd of people and I say, all right, who wants to come with me on a camping trip? And out of 100 people, 3 people say yes, I don't feel like 97 people rejected me. Unless I really wanted all 100 to come with me, and I thought that them saying no to it meant that there's something wrong with me, like I'm some loser or some creep that nobody wants to go camping with. Now I feel like I've been rejected 97 times. I feel so bad about it, I don't even notice the 3 that said yes. One way to look at it is the same question could be asked by 100 different people. All of them could get a so-called rejection, but not all of them would feel that they got rejected. In fact, every single one of them would have a slightly different response, which means it's all in here. It's all totally personal. There's nothing objective about a rejection. Or the other way to put it is, if somebody says no or gets upset with you and you do not add a self-shaming story to it, then no rejections occurred. There's no such thing as rejection unless you are mean to yourself in response. So rejection is really, the true definition is it's a symptom of shame. It's a story about how there's something wrong with you to explain somebody else's feelings and behavior. That you've caused them to behave or feel in this way because there's something wrong with you. That is what a rejection really is, that story. If you don't have that story, no sense of rejection. Of course, managing the shame and not taking things personally is a lot fucking easier said than done, right? But that is the mission. That's the only mission you need to go on. You don't need to make other people like you more. You don't need to work on your approach skills. You don't need to master the art of nonviolent communication techniques so that people can accept everything you say. You don't need to work on them and their response. You need to work on yours. Because if you can work on yours, then it doesn't matter what they do at all. It doesn't matter how hard that no is. It can bounce right off you if there's no shame story. Is if you avoid rejections, don't take the risk of them ever happening through staying calm, never asking for anything, then you don't get to train or test the very idea of rejection. It remains this myth, very powerful myth, that hasn't been put through any sort of scientific experiment. You know, to jump forward a little bit, I went on a mission to get rejected as often as possible. And it was through that I started to realize that my idea of what rejection was not matching what was happening in real life. Other people's reactions were nowhere near as extreme as I was expecting them to be. And my own internal response to them varied greatly depending on the context. You know, if I was on my 10th rejection of the day, it didn't feel like anything anymore. There was something about getting 5 rejections in a row that just made me feel bulletproof. And yet the same kind of responses were happening. And so when I finally allowed myself to step off that edge and go, okay, I'm going to go now provoke a no. I don't mean being deliberately bothersome, but just being honest in a way where people are forced to give me a yes or a no, and they don't have a choice of kind of weaseling out of it. I started to actually see what really happened, which was very interesting to say the least, and started to shake my belief system. And this is, I guess I'll put this out here now so that nobody gets a false sense of hope. There is no way to overcome this fear without stepping into it. You are going to have to go out there and deliberately do the things you've been avoiding doing. Get the no's and the upset responses you've been trying to prevent. Because we can have a great conversation philosophically in theory and you'll feel like, yeah, I'm really on board with it, but your emotional brain won't have caught up at all. Right? Your limbic system will still have the exact same response to the idea of people rejecting you. So this isn't a rational battle. This has to be done physiologically. You have to go out there and go through the processing of the emotional response, process it differently to usual, and that's where you'll start to work through this. So if there's anyone out there who really wants to overcome this fear, I've got kind of good news and bad news. The bad news is, think at least 100. At least 100 times you're going to have to deliberately go out there and get that kind of response you've been avoiding. The good news is the improvement after 100, if you apply the concepts I'm about to talk about, where you process it differently rather than just taking everything personally and allowing that to be your final kind of reaction, it'll be enormous, the changes you'll make. The thing you're most afraid of will become something you actually enjoy doing, which opens up limitless opportunities in your life. But I've been at this game a long time. I have never encountered a way that overcomes the fear that doesn't involve you going out there and being afraid. Okay, there's no shortcut here. The programming's too deep. The rational mind cannot convince the emotional mind. Only experience can do that. You have to go and provide evidence. And I say that with all sympathy, but no pity. I had to put myself through it, and I was as scared as any of you. Okay, really I was. but I'm glad I went through it, and I know you will be too. Let's have a little look at why. Why do we have this fear? Why does it control us? And why do we have such a terrible response to it that causes the very problem we're trying to solve? Well, it's a pretty strong theory in evolutionary psychology. One way to look at it is we are all the progeny. Our ancestors are all people who were terrified of rejection, and that's why they lived long enough to have kids. Until very recently in human history, it was incredibly dangerous to be ostracized from the local tribe, from the group. It was a death sentence. I sort of follow science more than anything else. Homo sapiens have been around for about 100 to 150,000 years. It's only very recently that you can safely strike out on your own without anything bad happening. That's a couple of 100 years max. The brain hasn't anywhere near caught up. Right? Even just a couple of 100 years ago, being ostracized was a death sentence. So we are wired to stay safe from social rejection. We're descended from the people who are afraid of it. It is hardwired into our DNA. And then this gets reinforced by early childhood experiences. Primary school, but especially high school. Social ostracism becomes the greatest thing to be afraid of. The social hierarchy, the Lord of the Flies shit that happens in high school. I mean, that is when you really learn, oh, rejection's bad. That's the time you actually did get humiliated or bullied. Something actually physically, measurably bad happened to you as a result of rejection. That's when that happens. It doesn't need to happen often because you've already got the programming that says avoid this thing. You have one or two bad experiences with people and it just locks it in. Your brain just goes, oh, I fucking knew it. We're not going through that again. Like I said, I had one girl misinterpret what I wanted because somebody deliberately sabotaged my love note to her, which I've told the story a million times. She humiliated me in front of dozens, if not hundreds of people who were watching. And I didn't ask out another girl for a decade. That's all it took, one experience. Now, I must be pre-programmed to have a fear of that for one experience to make the final decision for me. And we start to associate being alone with loneliness. So we start to associate being disconnected, disliked, ostracized from peers as being like a physical ache, something that hurts. I remember in my early 20s, especially, the anxiety I get on a Friday. Is anyone going to text me? Will I actually end up doing anything this weekend? Do I have a social life or is it all an illusion? This is back before social media and stuff, and it'd be like, if nobody texts me, I'm fucked. I'm stuck at home at the farm with my parents again, right? I'd actually feel physical pain at the thought of being by myself or not being accepted by the group. And so you start to see pain as being relative to how many people like you. And people disliking you increases the pain. People liking you decreases it. You start to think, oh, this is how the system works. And so this idea of rejection starts to come up. If people dislike me, it hurts. If people like me, it feels good. So I need to manage that somehow if I want to feel good. And of course, when they don't like you, you can't just go, maybe they're a dick. You're a kid, right? I've got a daughter, 5 years old. She really struggles to understand it when other kids won't play with her. Now, kids are just kids. I can see it from the outside. It's obvious. Sometimes kids play together, sometimes they don't. They're best friends one day, enemies the next day. They don't know what the fuck's going on. Right? They're crazy. They're kids. But from her point of view, she's like, he was my best friend. He didn't talk to me all day. Like, what did I do? And she's trying to figure it out. Right? She's trying to figure out, well, how did I cause that? Because kids are like egocentric. They think they cause everything. So any explanation they have of somebody treating them badly, not liking them, being upset by them, they're going to go, okay, something about me did that. And we can see the combination of all these factors, like genetic fear of rejection, painful experiences from being alone, trying to figure out why, and being egocentric. The most likely conclusion we're going to come to is there's something wrong with me. Right? There's something fundamentally repulsive about me, especially if it happens a lot. And even somebody who's the cool kid or the popular kid, I follow those kids from high school to see what happened to them in their 20s. They are as hooked on it as anybody else. Their fear of rejection is actually there as well. They just got lucky. But they feel that. They feel like this could all be taken away one day. They don't feel a great certainty with it. All it takes is one friend betraying them, one girlfriend cheating on them, or whatever. And they realize how fragile their ego really is, how fragile their confidence is, how dependent it is on the absence of rejection. It's kind of like a rich person who didn't know how to make money. They inherited it. Sure, they're not that worried about money, but deep down they're insecure because they know, I don't know how to control this system. Kids can't understand preferences. They can't understand like somebody just doesn't feel like it, or they wired to like certain things and not other things, and that's got nothing to do with you. It's just luck. They have to take it personally. And people generally, and I know so many adults, they believe that likability is universal, that everyone's kind of got the same preferences for what a good person is that you want to hang out with. And so if one person rejects you, they're speaking for the hive mind. Like they all feel this way generally. If one person says that you're too short, you're going to think, oh, height is a general problem, right? If somebody says like, oh, you're boring, you're going to think, oh, I am universally uninteresting to all people. They're just the messenger. Give me the bad news, right? The idea that like the next person might feel the exact opposite way about you. The way somebody can love coriander, another person thinks it's the foulest thing on the planet. Right? Why some people love heavy metal, also me. And other people think Beyonce is the best. We can see that people have these hugely diverse preferences, and yet when it comes to liking another human being, which is such a complex set of preferences, we think, no, everyone's pretty much the same on that one. Everyone's really, really different on everything else, but no, people, they're the same. So if one person doesn't like me, I mean, the mob has spoken, right? So we draw these conclusions, and I say all this to help you start asking yourself, have I drawn these conclusions? Do these conclusions fucking make any sense? Why is it I think that because one person didn't like me, they all don't? And yet I can also see that people are right and left politically, different types of music, different cultural ideas, different beliefs from right and wrong, but liking other people, that's going to be the same for everyone? It's a wild conclusion. And so we started to make this assumption that other people's judgments of us, their reactions to us, are sort of accurate measures of our worth, our self-worth. More praise means I'm a good person. More people liking me, that means I'm a good person. And the opposite, less means I'm a bad person. Somebody disliking me, having a disagreeable reaction. Now, this is a moral claim about me now. I must be bad, right? And of course, it goes both ways. You can see how like big-headed and crazy celebrities get. They get so much approval socially that they start to think they're right about everything. You know, they start to go be activists on all these different topics. And you're like, dude, you don't know about any of those topics. Why are you talking right now? And you don't realize it's because everyone really reacts well to them. It starts to give them a sense that they must be morally good. I mean, there are plenty of people who loved Hitler. To this day, there's people who love Hitler. Does that mean he's morally good? So we start to make this assumption. Okay, all of these things combined feels pretty clear. If I want to see how well I'm doing, it depends if the person reacts well to me. Now, if I start to get worried that that's generally going to be a bad reaction, if I'm not one of the popular kids, if I've had some hard no's that were really painful as a kid, I start backwards rationalizing what exactly is wrong with me. How am I different to the ones that get lots of yeses? What sort of traits do I possess or lack? What's wrong with myself? And if I can't find people who have a preference for who I am, because I don't even believe that's possible, I'm going to have to adjust who I am to be a good person and to be loved. I'm going to start correcting, conforming. And if I can't figure out how to do that, I better start hiding and masking. Or one way or another, whatever it is that seems to be setting people off, I'm going to identify it and I'm going to fucking squash it. And so we start to make these moves that change who we are and hide who we are to get the more positive reactions. And that is the real rejection. That's the bit. The other people having different preferences, that's fine. Not everyone wants to eat pizza. But when we go, okay, I'm going to adjust who I am to enable better reactions to happen, you reject yourself. You're the one saying you're not good enough. It's not nothing to do with them. Wow, it's provoked by them. It's a misinterpretation of what they're doing. But people can say no to who you are all day long without it hurting. It's you that said no to you. That's why it hurts. And you said no by changing yourself and hiding yourself. It didn't feel like a no. It felt like pursuing a yes. And you couldn't see the cost of that investment. If I dial up my funniness to make you laugh, I'm telling myself I'm boring. If I wear platform shoes to give me a bit of height, I'm telling myself that being short is an issue. If I hide my preferences for my music so my wife gets to play her crappy shit in the car, I'm telling myself that my choice of music is bad. She's not saying it. Maybe she is saying it too, but I'm the one who's really calling the shots on this. You'll know this because there'll be examples of times where somebody clearly didn't like something about you, but you're good with it. And you're like, nah, fuck you. I used to get this with my metal music all the time. Like liking metal music, I was in the minority, to say the least. Most of my friends listen to other things. But when they'd say that my music sucks, I'm like, nah, you suck. All your music sucks. This is the only good music. I am very certain of that. I'm going to let you have your crap because there's something wrong with you. But metal is the only music that has any real balls. I had that view of it, and so it didn't hurt at all. It just bounced off. Their preference bounced off me. But just about anything else personal about me, especially if I was invested in that person liking me, girl I'm attracted to, a guy I look up to, my parents. If I really wanted them to like me, and then they found something personal about me that wasn't to their preference, my instinctual reaction was, I got to change this thing. I got to appear to be more this and less that. I've got to suppress that. Those are all bad feelings. And quite often that's what it comes down to, is the expression of emotion. That's the number one thing that we start to mask and hide and mutate. We start to realize people react badly to me when I'm feeling certain things. So what can I do about these feelings? Can I stop them? Can I hide them? Can I pretend? Like caring too much, that seems to get rejected. Getting easily upset and being sensitive, that seems to get rejected. Being sad and crying, that seems to get rejected. Is there some way I can hide this? Can I be cooler, calmer, funnier, more aggressive? Is there a range of emotions that seems to get a better response? And even just considering that change is a self-rejection. So I'm hammering that point home because that is why this is really happening. Fuck evolution and your childhood and all that. That's all done now. Nothing you can do about that. But you rejecting you is something you choose to do every single fucking day. Right? That's still on the table. That's still negotiable. All the other stuff is said and done. But you're carrying on the legacy of this fear with your behavior. And it's got nothing to do with other people anymore. If it ever did. Quite often it can be about a future trip as well, catastrophizing. This is one of the most common forms of self-rejection I see from people. Having fearful sensations, imagining things going wrong. It could be imagining a rejection, or it could just imagining some kind of failure. Imagining someone won't like you, or imagining that you don't do well on the project at work or whatever. All of this is saying, I'm not good enough now. So the more you indulge in that kind of negative fantasy, the more you reject yourself. Ruminating. I mean, how often do you go back over the past and say, this is why I'm a bad person? That. That's just you by yourself. Nobody's fucking sitting there criticizing you. There's no bully in the room. You're the only bully in the room. I literally call it legacy bullying. It's when the bullies have gone away, the bad parents, the toxic brother, whatever, that's all gone, and you're keeping up the hard work on their behalf. So don't worry, I got this. I'll beat myself up now. Thanks for the training. And you've got to realize that that's a choice. You don't actually have to do that. It's not even accurate. So we react to this fear that there's something wrong with us by behaving as if there is something wrong with us, which is the rejection. That is the only rejection that you'll ever experience in your life that's at all real. Yeah, other people say no to you and have emotional reactions to you, but you're the one that turns it into a rejection. Before that, it's just preferences, emotional dysregulation. It's got nothing to do with you. person who screamed at you and said you're an asshole. Think that's you're the only person that person screamed at? You probably scream at someone every week. It's not personal. Someone says no to you asking them out, you're just not their type. Or they're not in the mood right now, or they're not available. That's got nothing to do with you. But you then take that and go, it must be because I'm this or not enough that. And that is where the rejection happens. And that's what you're afraid will happen. You're not really afraid that they're going to say no. You're afraid of what you're going to do to yourself after. You're not really afraid of them being angry at you or disappointed in you. You're afraid of how you're going to interpret that and what you're going to do to yourself in response to that. You're afraid of yourself. And you should be. You've got a bully living in your head. I'd be afraid of him too. I was afraid of him for most of my life. But it's nobody else. And once you realize that, you realize I can get my hands around this. This is all me. I'm doing this. Somehow I'm choosing to do this. And here's the best part. I don't have to. I feel like I have to. I feel like I can't control myself. But that's not true. It's just a story I tell myself. And of course, the reaction to all of this is you behave in a way that actually makes other people more likely to dislike you, to say no. And so you get the self-fulfilling prophecy. You withdraw socially, you people please, you're dishonest, you hide your desires. And this gets worse reactions than just being radically honest with people and taking risks does. From my experience anyway, and pretty much every client I've ever worked with. By the way, if any of you want my personal support with this, just get in touch, dan@brojo.org. We'll talk about it more. So we've talked about what it is, why it happens. Let's talk about the other way of living. How do we get over this shit? It isn't easy. I'm not going to pretend it's easy. It is simple, but it's not easy. For now, you've got to understand, you do this Machiavellian level manipulation to prevent other people saying no or being upset by you. That has to stop. It's not so much that you have to deliberately go out of your way to provoke a bad reaction. The first thing you do is just ease up the controls and stop trying to prevent a so-called bad reaction. It takes a lot of work. You've got to understand, what are all the little things that I do, little and big, to stop people saying no to me, stop people being upset, whatever it is that I call a rejection. What are all those things, those extra things I do? What would it mean to just turn the lights off on all of those dishonest behaviors? Trying too hard, pretending not to try, masking, all these little things you do. What would happen if I just stopped doing those and just see what happens? If I stop trying to manage everyone's feelings about me and let them have feelings about me. Even just one thing at a time, just to slowly cut those ropes one at a time at a pace that you can handle. Because the key is you have to understand that rejection does not really exist. And in order to understand that, you have to see and allow real reactions to who you are. And to see what actually happens when somebody reacts to you, what a reaction really is. Now, I can't cure you of this in one conversation. I won't pretend that I can do that. That's why I have the course there. Plug. But let me try and shake your belief that somebody can objectively reject you and give you permission to start allowing real reactions to happen. Because really, all you need to see is that you need to be more accurate with yourself. Okay. So when someone says no to me, I have not received feedback. I do not need to do anything with that information. That is not a prompt for me to investigate my faults and flaws. All they've done is give me an impression of their preferences. I don't even know if they're telling the truth. I've had girls say no to me when I approached them, and then later on said I was disappointed that I walked away after they said no, because it was some game they were playing, trying to make me work harder at it. Some people don't even mean a no when they say it. Plenty of other times, they say what appears to be a no, but it's actually more just a feeling they're having. Someone being angry at you doesn't mean they don't like you. In fact, if you have a great connection with someone, they're going to have a full range of emotional responses to you. I remember my first girlfriend got angry at me for the first and maybe only time in our relationship, and I drove away from my house thinking the relationship was over. For me, she had dumped me. That was my perception. And so I'm at the end of her very long driveway, and she called me and said, come back. And I was like, Oh, I guess I must have left some stuff there, 6 months of relationship is over, better go collect my stuff. I went back and we just talked it through and so on. And I was like, I was just baffled. I'm like, are we not broken up? What the fuck's going on? Because I perceived it as that, but it actually hadn't happened. So you can't even trust that you're hearing no accurately. Maybe it's just not yet. Or maybe they didn't even understand what it is you're offering or asking. Maybe you don't even know what you're offering or asking. So who the fuck knows what's going on? Who knows what a yes or a no means in that situation? But let me just throw some ideas at you to help shake your belief that rejection comes from other people and it means that you're a bad person. As I said earlier, people loved Hitler. There's people who hate Gandhi. There are so many people that have such a polarized reaction that it's almost impossible to say that we know if we like them or hate them sometimes. But we can clearly see that acceptance and rejection are not at all objective. For every celebrity you love, there's an entire hate group who get together to bitch about them. There are people who you loved and then you found out more information and then you hated. The person hasn't changed, you just found out more information about them. So how is it that we're supposed to associate morality with other people's perception and take it seriously? If someone likes you, that doesn't mean you're a good person. It means they have a preference for what they think they know about you, which is probably fuck all compared to how much information. I mean, they haven't read your journal, have they? They haven't seen your every thought. They might change their mind if they did. You think of the polarized reaction people with Tourette's tics get, especially people who are verbal and say all those fucked up things. They basically just have no, we all have fucked up thoughts. They say them, right? Would people react differently to you if you said all your thoughts? Are you sure it would be more negative? It might be more positive. But what we clearly know for sure is that a terrible person can be loved and a great person can be hated. There's no objectivity to that. So if someone doesn't like you, there is no moral judgment taking place that you can take seriously. You might be just in the wrong room with the wrong audience. Your fan club might be just down the road and you haven't met them yet. Now, you may have spent a lot of time in your life surrounded by people who give you negative reactions, but it's more than possible that you've spent your whole life with the wrong fit people. We don't get an accurate spectrum of people in our lives. It's what I call the cluster bias effect. We tend to repeat the people we spend time with, the psychological profile. So we're not out there sampling the whole world. Odds are we're just repeating ourselves, the same type of person over and over again, same type of friends from the same area who had the same upbringing and so on and so on. So we think, everyone feels a certain way about me. It's like, no, a cluster of people who you've only been exposed to do, right? You might think, all my friends are tradesmen and they all take the piss out of me. Well, how many chess clubs have you been to? How many yoga retreats have you been to? There are different types of people out there. I was amazed at the reaction I got when I joined the dance community. Like, they loved me being honest. I was making that transition into honesty about the same time I found dancing. Whereas my old friends from high school were starting to distance themselves from me. Not all of them, but a few. The more honest I became, the more they're like, I'm not into this guy. Let's say somebody does reject you. What are they rejecting exactly? You? What does that mean? They only know what they know about you. So for someone to reject you as an entire whole person, they have to know everything, at least all the core points, the main important data about you. Who knows that? Do you even know everything about you? So is someone saying no to you, or are they saying no to the manifestation of you they've created in their mind based on the data they have? You think, like, right now you can judge me, okay? Judge me however you see fit. Come up with some judgments, who you think I am, whether I'm a good person, bad person, mix, somewhere in between. I don't care. Whatever you want. And then just start to tick off all the things you don't know about me. Do you know my middle name? Do you know what I ate for breakfast this morning? Do you know the names of my 3 best friends? Do you know my favorite country? Do you know what culture I most align with? Do you know what moral principles are my favorite? Do you know what the best movies are that I like to watch? Do you know what my relationship with my mother is like? Do you know what kind of experience I had with pets growing up? Do you know the name of my high school? I could go on, and the answer to most of these questions, you're going to be like, I don't know. And yet this is all really core information about me. So whatever it is that you feel about me, and I'm someone who's put a lot of this information out. I'm very open and honest. I've got whole books full of my secrets published. And even that, even you diehard followers who I love, by the way, who are into all my shit, you still barely know anything about me. So whatever it is you think I am is something you made up with a small handful of data points, plus stuff that you made up and guessed about me that's probably wrong. And that's who you're having a reaction to. Some straw man you're calling Dan, middle name unknown Munro, right? So whether you love me or hate me, it's not me. It's this guy that you made up, right? I hope you're getting along well with him, because he doesn't fucking exist. Now, there are some people who know me really well, my wife, for example. But she's only been able to get to know me really well because we get along so well. The people who don't never get in close. They never get to find out the truth about me. So you can't actually even get rejected by someone who knows you well, because someone who knows you well wouldn't reject you. If they rejected you, they wouldn't get to know you well. Right? So really, you are getting rejected? Have a think about who rejected you in your life that actually knew you, that could answer every question about you, that wouldn't be surprised about anything they read in your journal, that knew your deepest thoughts and desires and fears and fucked up fantasies, and knew it all. How many people are we talking about here? Any? Because if the answer is no, then whoever said no to you was saying no to something in their head that looked like you a bit. That's all. You think, like, this is one of the biggest insights I had approaching strangers. I remember the quickest one I got is I walked up to a girl. She did not change her pace whatsoever. I was walking up to her and I think I said, "Excuse me." I got maybe 2 words out. I remember this tall, like, South African black woman, really beautiful. She was just like, "Not interested," like that. I remember it real perfectly. And I was like, she didn't even make direct eye line at me. Like, I was just peripheral to her. She just saw this guy walking out the side. I went, "Nope, mm-mm." I was like, what exactly did she reject? A blur of color, saying words, plus whatever she imagined I might be? Maybe she thought I was someone trying to sell her something. I doubt that, like, put it this way, if we bumped into each other today, there's no fucking chance she would have any recognition of who I am or remember me. Right? That's how little data she scraped from that experience. She said no to a blur in her periphery with a New Zealand accent. That's it. She said no to 2 words and some color. And I'm supposed to take that personally? For all we know, I was the perfect person for her and she just missed out. She never got to find out. She never got anywhere near enough information for that. Let's say you go on a first date with someone and then they say, "I don't want to see you anymore." Were you even your true self on that first date? Unlikely, from what I've seen. So what they're really saying is, whatever performance you put on that date and whatever information she added to that to explain it to herself, she's saying no to that, which might as well be a complete fucking stranger. Whoever that is, it's got almost nothing to do with you, just kind of looks like you, probably. Right? Even eyewitness reports and trials and so on, they often get hair color wrong, size, everything wrong. Eyewitness testimony is so unreliable. So they might not even really know what you look like. Like, if you were to see the picture of yourself in their head, you might be like, "I don't look like that." Where'd you get that from? Because their brain had to make it up because they forgot most of it. And you're taking this personally when they say no. Like, this is about you. That makes no sense. You'll never know why somebody says no or got upset. And here's the kicker, neither will they. Why is one of the weirdest questions. Why did I do that? Why did they do that? Why are they upset? The only accurate answer to that is, I don't know. Now, that's not the answer they'll have in their head or the answer you'll have in yours, because the human brain's just very uncomfortable with saying, I don't know, so it makes stuff up. But it's amazing how much of this is subconsciously driven. You think about attraction, it's not a choice. Think someone's attractive, not. Do you ever ask yourself, like, why? Why them? Why not them? And what you'll often find if you actually dig past your bullshit narratives is it's cultural. If you're raised in a certain country with certain things, you'll find certain things attractive. But if I was to raise you on the other side of the world in a completely different culture, you'd find those same things repulsive. So this idea that somebody's saying no to you or upset by you, and it's got something to do with like some story, like because you're this and not enough that, that's just a space filler because you don't really know. For all you know, somebody was mean to them when they're 2 years old who resembled you. They have no memory of this, but they just get a repulse reaction when they see you because of childhood trauma. They'll never know that that's why they said no. So their brain will go, oh no, he's not rich enough. And you'll be saying, oh my God, it's because of the money thing. I knew I was too poor. But she just didn't have the self-awareness insight and say, no, someone who looked like you was cruel to me when I was a baby and it imprinted on my childish mind. And now I've got this like neuron that fires off with somebody who vaguely resembles that shape and it affects. Like that's the most likely answer, right? Some deep-seated preference was set at the very early stages of life. You think looks matter, and yet blind people get into relationships. Turns out it doesn't matter so much. You put two people on an island, in fact, I'll tell you from personal observation, you put two people in prison, attraction choices start to change. Yeah. Don't get so fussy when the options are limited. So do we really know what we want or why we want it? You think your wife getting upset with you is really about you? What, she never got upset before this marriage? This isn't something she brought with her? This preference or this sensitivity or this tendency or this pattern? You're the first one to piss her off? Or does she get pissed off by things and you happen to be there this time? Is it really you? The thing is, you'll never know. There's also a kind of kindness factor here. You're worried about people being mean to you. It's not just the no, it's how it's done, isn't it? The hurtful way it's done. An insult, screaming, insults, and I said that already. But some sort of negative reaction that actually hurts your feelings. One thing I've discovered from studying confidence for my entire adult life is that confident people are never cruel. They say no thank you kindly, firmly, but politely. They don't add anything onto it. They don't try and make the person hurt for asking, unless you're overstepping the boundaries and not respecting a no. So if somebody ever gives you a bad kind of mean, hurtful response, all they're really saying is, I'm not a confident, healthy person. So why are you taking their feedback so seriously? I've found the people who give me the most unsolicited criticism are the people doing the most poorly. As Denzel Washington says, you never get hated on from people doing better than you. And I thought that was the weirdest thing to claim. I thought there must be so many exceptions to that. And I'm still looking for exceptions and I haven't found it. Right? Everybody's got mean things to say to me about who I am and what I do. Whenever I investigate their lives, I'm like, I wouldn't trade places with you, pal. Like, why am I worried what you think? You barely got your own shit sorted. In fact, you haven't. Like, if I'm going to be getting feedback, I want it to be from somebody who's superior, right? And I don't mean to like judge people and so on, but put it this way, the most hateful comments I get on YouTube, never once has it been from somebody who actually does well on YouTube. Just that basic fact. Nobody's ever put a hateful comment and then had like really good videos out there that do a lot of good in the world. You know what I mean? So why am I taking their feedback seriously? Now, if somebody's really good at what I do, a nice guy recovery coach who makes YouTube videos, has some critical feedback, I'll want to listen. But the funny thing is, he's very unlikely to be cruel about it. In fact, he probably won't even give it to me unsolicited. I'll have to go ask. I might even have to fucking pay him to get that feedback, most likely. So somebody coming and giving you negative ass feedback, hurtful feedback, just because you're trying to do something, all they're saying is, they feel inferior to you and they're lashing out. What if they just don't want what you have to offer? Think about ice cream, right? Whatever your favorite flavor is. I'm sure you can imagine somewhere out there somebody thinks that flavor is gross and they have a favorite flavor that you would never buy. Right? We're clearly programmed differently. Some people love sports, others would prefer to stay in and watch a movie. Different types of music we listen to, different cultures we prefer to be around. Some people love to travel, some people never leave their village. Everybody's so different with their preferences. So why would you take those preferences personally? This is what, the example with the pizza, when you say, do you want pizza? And they say no, you're able to go, oh, they just don't have a preference for pizza right now. Even if they wanted pizza before, they obviously don't want it now. I get it. This isn't about me. This is about their relationship with pizza. It was there before I got here. What's the difference between that and the way you look or you sound or your personality? They already had a relationship with that type of stuff before you arrived, and you're just finding out what their relationship is. If I go up to someone, say I'm single, and I go and approach a girl, and she says, no, I'm not interested, that's what she means. She said, no, I've got this stuff I'm into, and this isn't it. I don't perceive that happening right now. I'm into chocolate ice cream, and vanilla's showing up. I'm gonna wait for chocolate, thanks. That's not a measurement of me. The next girl might prefer vanilla. And I'm quite literally vanilla, right? Whatever it is you think is your fault is somebody else's preference. I think, I've never seen my abs. Like, I'm in all right shape, but my abs never show up, I've always got that layer of fat over top. And I used to think, well, that's objectively attractive. Got to have abs, despite the fact that, like, half the kids I went to school with the Samoan were big as beautiful. Like, I'd clearly seen this whole cultures that don't care about abs. But I was like, no, it's definitely important. And then I've had girls say that they prefer this over abs. So it wasn't that I was getting rejected for not having abs. I was just finding the wrong girls who preferred abs or whatever it is that they preferred. You can't make someone like vanilla ice cream. They don't have a choice about their preferences. Not really. They've been conditioned and programmed maybe, but you can't just make yourself attracted to someone you're not attracted to. You can't just make yourself like a music that you hate the sound of. And what actually happens when you get rejected, by the way? You're so busy worrying about it. What really happens? Do you get punched and stabbed? Do you lose your job? Are you extradited from your country, never to return? Or does kind of just nothing happen? Like, the person gets upset or says no, and then life just continues. I remember an incident where someone was really disappointed in me, and they said, I'm disappointed in you. And that was like the worst thing you could say to me. That was the biggest rejection, to be disappointed in me, like I let you down. It's the way, my dad used to say that one when I fucked up, and it really hit me. Right? Then I remember the same person, 2 days later, we were talking like everything was fine. And I was just like, they felt the worst possible thing anyone could ever feel about me, apparently. 2 days later, we're chatting like everything's fine. What actually happened? I mean, how many times have you been like, oh my God, my wife's so upset with me. And then at some point later on, she's in a different mood and it's all over. It turns out you just needed to ride the wave. There's nothing you actually had to do with that. Nothing happened. She didn't stab you in your sleep, right? She didn't set the house on fire. She just got mad and then she got over it and life continued. So exactly what happens? Compared to your imagination, are rejections really so bad in real life? Because I'll tell you, I've had thousands of them on purpose. I never even got slapped. Nothing physical ever happened. I'm not promising nothing physical will ever happen. But ironically, even if that's your fear, I've worked with a lot of violent men in my life, and you trying to avoid violence, I just don't want no trouble, that provokes violence. So ironically, the less you're afraid of that happening, the more like okay you are with it happening, the far less likely it is to happen. Tough guys don't want to take on another tough guy. They want an easy target. So even if you're afraid that something really bad will happen, you avoiding it provokes it. If you've been mistreated by your partners in the past, it's because you backstepped when you should have forward stepped. You gave that opening and they went, oh, okay, let's push that button then. Had you been like, nah, I don't care what you think, I'm not talking to you for 2 days if you're going to talk to me like that. That'd nip that behavior right in the bud. It would happen less. It's tragic, but that's true. One thing you got to ask yourself, am I imagining the most likely explanation? Or am I just playing with shame-based fears and stories and judgments? When you're worried about what's going to happen, are you actually worried about what's actually going to happen? Are you worried about this big catastrophic story that you make up that is just so fucking unlikely to happen? I'm going to go ask my boss for a raise, and your brain's, oh, you're going to be fired and blacklisted, and you'll be homeless, and you'll have to join the meth addicts on the street. Yeah, is that the most likely? Right? Do you even give yourself a chance to go, here's the statistically most likely thing to happen, and even if the worst case happened, here's how I would handle that? Or are you just getting swept away on your old shame story, indulging in that self-pity? It's really helpful to write it out on paper. Okay, if I go and approach that girl and ask her out, most likely thing that I think will happen is she'll say no thanks politely and walk away. I'm afraid of that. Why? What's so terrible about that? I mean, how am I worse off after that than before I started? But just questioning your brain's tendency to make up shit that's not going to happen. Like I said, after 1,000 plus, I stopped counting after a while, but after hundreds of rejections, I was like, I don't think anything bad is ever going to happen. That incident in high school was actually a one-off. That's not how people react in real life. In fact, that incident in high school wasn't even what it appeared to be. Like I said, it had been sabotaged. So I hadn't actually been rejected. I had someone react to a misinformation about me. But me being honest with people doesn't get that big of a reaction. If someone doesn't like me, they just walk away. It's only online that they get into it. In real life, people are way too awkward for that. So you got to ask yourself, if I don't feel bad about myself, is rejection even possible? Is this all this is? Just me indulging in a negative story about myself to explain other people's preferences, to take other people's preferences personally? What I call the inept God complex. Am I deciding how other people feel? Is that what I believe is happening? Or have I never been rejected by someone else? I've just discovered their preferences and then told myself a shitty story about it. So, do with that what you can. Like I said, the course goes deeper into the practical exercises you can do. Of course, you can get in touch with me, dan@projo.org, for more personal support.